I think there's some misconceptions about what these seasons are and what it's going to mean to you as a player. And so I want to take some time and kind of explain what's going on here and also defend the design decision of making these seasons the way they are, where you lose progress. We're going to talk about what all we're losing, what all is changing, and I'm also going to put it into a little bit of perspective as to how this applies and how instead of hiding the fact that there was some shifts in what you can do, they just made it outright a part of the game. If you got any opinions on the matter, I'd love to see it in the comments. I would love to discuss this with you. I actually read those comments down there and respond to them. Check my other videos if you don't believe me. All right, so let's just start right at the top. What do you even lose when this reset happens? The chief one that people are concerned about is the level loss. You're gonna go from whatever level you're at back to level 1. There's also, you're gonna not have any of your gear, your weapons, or your materials that you have. There will be some sort of choice you can make where you pick certain types of materials to keep, and I think your knowledge on the matter is going to be really important when we go to do that. So keep that in mind. I don't know the limitations with this, and none of us will till later, but I'm sure there are certain things, particularly acid, that if you really double down and get, and some of the plastics, you could make a huge jump forward in progress with very little actual resources. So on top of that, you're also going to lose your energy links and any progress through the mimetic tree, which is your little cradle thing where you get your different technological advances. And that's it. So before we move on and I explain the things you're keeping, let's talk about what these mean for gameplay. Your level is arbitrary, honestly. Most of your damage comes from the weapons you use and what mods you have and like how your gear is set up. So most of your damage is already coming from a different source than like your level. There is scaling with that, I'm sure, but it's arbitrary. Each of these weeks where it's unlocked new content, I've taken my level 30 wife to some of these level 40-ish areas, and she's had very little problems because she's using gear designed for that. And once she gets up to tier 5 at level 40, I don't think she'll have any problems at all. And that's with the level 50 stuff at that point. So your gear and your weapon are your main form of progression, and they are taking those as well. But let's get into what they're not taking, because one of the big things they're not taking are blueprints. Yeah, the fragments and stuff, your one weapon you have that you really like that you keep repairing, you will be keeping that blueprint, including any upgrade you make to the blueprint, which, if you didn't know, additional fragments and fragments of weapon types that are similar can be used on those certain weapons to upgrade their level, which upgrades their overall power. I think this is one of the few like complete seasonal progression things. I'm sure you could get more of these levels beforehand. But if you get one of your patterns up to level 5 and you make that towards the start of a wipe, this will be much easier to kill things and navigate. It'll actually probably partially ruin your experience if you don't like it too easy. However, it'll make it so you're just chewing through that early content. The other thing about this seasons I want to mention right here when I'm talking about like content is that one of the things you keep is your main story progress and your side quest progress. But this is a hint as to how this all works. If you look on their website and you go to the season 2 or the next season PvE scenario, it mentions that we're going to a different part of the map, one we're not in right now. There's a running theory, and I won't kind of talk about it, but by the end of this season, it will be clear why something is happening like this, like where our progression is wiped and why we leave all of our stuff behind to go to a new area. I think there are story reasons for this seasonal wipe, or if there's not reasons for it, it will be hinted at. And one theory I have, and I'm going to put it right here because hopefully if you're here, you're pretty deep cut like I am. I think meta-human, I think it's a name for a reason. Meta is typically a concept I don't have to explain if you play video games. But there's a lot of different connotations for that word, and one of which would describe something outside of a cycle, much like what we're doing here. So I just wanted to throw that in here because I think the seasonal stuff and I think the way all this works, the mematics, it's all hints at what the whole package is going to look like. I think by the end of this wipe, we're going to see a game we've never quite seen before. And that leads me into my next point. MMO's largest problems are stagnation. Just because you want to keep your stuff does not mean that makes for a compelling gameplay experience. You can very easily just chew through all the content, make it in-game, max out your character, and then what? You wait for the next set of content to come out? They're gamifying it. This is a live service, not a RPG. And for a long time, we've had a mixture of RPG and live service. Whereas this game is fully delving into what it means to be a live service on a level where it's involved in the content and the content delivery outside of just patches. Other things you will keep, and the biggest one is your Star Crom, the thing you get by doing the little defense things in your house, whatever they're called, and various other parts. You can gamble them for cosmetic fragments, or you can also just buy those outright. You keep that, but you don't keep energy links. You can buy Star Crom with energy links. So if you've spent time building up a mass of wealth, as some of us have, you can buy Star Crom to give you a big leg up at the start of the next one, because this goes back to the gear and weapon blueprints thing I was talking about. You can buy those upgrades with that. Everything you do in this season can affect the next season. Does it affect it directly, i.e. your level, your materials? No. Does it affect it in a more meta sense in terms of how, like, you can make the same weapons again, or maybe you can make a different type of build, you just were missing parts on it? Well, you delve some of that money into actually obtaining those blueprints. There are two other parts to this. For your houses, your blueprints you save for the full house, like I have done with mine every time I get done editing things, you can just plop that down once you have the resources for it. So once you reach that same tier you're on, you'll be able to just plop down your old house. No one seems to be talking about that, so I wanted to mention it because it's a really big deal. A lot of people don't want to lose all that. You don't. The only things you're going to lose are like your level and your gear and your weapon. I believe the deviations fall into this too. They haven't directly said it, but in the seasonal tab, it does speak of deviations and which ones are available this season. I think that is something we're going to all have to deal with, but since they're just little workhorses, I don't think anybody really minds, and I'm sure they'll be giving back the utilities that things like Digby and the Beaver and stuff have. So, okay, so I've generally talked about what specifically is being left or what specifically is coming with us. But let's talk about what that means compared to a game like World of Warcraft. When World of Warcraft has an expansion, you are perpetuating your character, and that's fine. You start at a previous max level. You're either given a new place to go, completely disconnected from the previous one, or you go to a revamped older area, i.e. some of the older expansions. Anymore, it's always off on the side. But when you do that, your gear comes with you to some degree, but is quickly replaced by anything that can be offered there. And that's by design. They don't want you to take anything to the next expansion. They want it all as a little soft reset, but they let you keep an arbitrary level. But the difference between, say, a level 60 and a level 70 may as well be a 1 and a 60 as far as like damage, health, and stuff goes. They're just on different scales. So I say all of that to say, yeah, we lose our levels, our gear and stuff, but we've been doing that for a while. And here's one difference you're not thinking about in terms of this one, I believe. We have this Eternal Land thing. I haven't personally went and messed with it, but what it's meant to be is a trophy room of sorts, or a house room of sorts, where you build the permanent thing rather than the utilitarian thing you're supposed to have in the world. All that to be said, you don't necessarily lose. This stuff isn't wiped away. It's sent to that Eternal Land at the end of the season. You do this. This is part of the end of the season for your character. So you don't actually lose it even. Unlike World of Warcraft, where I bet you if you go into any player's bank, there are all kinds of materials that are in essence useless for their progression or current progress, but they for some reason just don't want to throw away. What is it doing there? And I'm not talking about gear. There is a part of this I didn't even say, is that you can send that gear to Eternal Land and have it up. There's weapon racks you can put them on. You have one in your house. I bet you do. I do. Got some fun stuff. There's all these concessions, and all I'm hearing is people upset that someone's doing something different in the MMO scene. So why don't we give this season a try first? Just one. Let's get through the whole thing. Let's get the reset done and sit at the beginning of season 2, and I'll revisit this when that happens, because I'm lost to this game. I play this game all the time now. But I genuinely think this is a great natural progression, because that is the time when people are engaging and playing, is when the level and gear is what you need to work through. I think people don't fully understand what makes an MMO so compelling anymore. I think the idea is not novel anymore, because when I started playing MMOs, the idea of spending time and talking to random people on the internet was just novel. It was new. I'm fucking old. Not that old, but old enough. So when I look at this, I've noticed that less people are interacting and talking now. Less things are happening because so many people have pushed so far ahead. There's little groups. There's like the group at the forefront ready to do the next set of content the moment it drops. There's a group like me just casually enjoying the content, playing around. I'm focusing on my house and my memetics and getting all of my crafting stuff and keeping my gear as high up as possible just because it's fun. Between proximity chat and the other things that this MMO offers, I can't say that there's any other game I'd be playing. And I think this seasonal reset, I gotta find a word for it. In the client, they call it seasonal inheritance. And I think that's a more accurate description of this. Why don't we give it a try? We all complain about the problems with MMOs, and this one is squarely sitting trying to fix many of them. The player housing issues that people have, where you can't find a way to make that work accurately in a very, very well-defined world. But here it's just a part of the mechanic. Everything seems so easy because it's not, the game is not about the mechanics of survival, the mechanics of the PvP, the PvE. It's about getting together with a group of friends or acquaintances and having a social interaction, enjoying one another's presence and playing the game together. That's why it's so easy to group and exchange things, and why giving permissions is sit right next to add friend, you know? So don't get lost in the actual game where you're neglecting the community side of it and the group side of it, because I think a lot of people are, and then they're going to be upset when they lose that progress. When it's the friends we made along the way that is the real thing this game is supposed to be. This is a social, shared space MMO. There's going to be a lot of these. Make sure you're embracing the social aspect of it and not cutting out other people simply because it's what you've done before. For people like me who used to play World of Warcraft all the time, there's this underlying sadness that many of us have, that we feel like MMOs just aren't like they used to be. It's true, but it's not the MMO's fault. Things like Wowhead and Discord and all of these outside social media things have desensitized us to put us into our MMO and make us not want to interact with people. But it's a massively multiplayer online game. I say all this to say, let's wait till the season goes. I made all these fucking notes over this. This is one of like 5 pages. You can't even see it. There's so many pages of notes that I made about how the seasonal inheritance stuff works. Hi, Wolvie. Why don't we give it a shot, you know? It could be so good, but instead many people are scared of something that's different than what they're used to seeing. And why don't you join me for that, huh? I'm just a guy playing video games, and I'm finding the games that I find are fun, and I'm wanting to share those experiences with people like you. Okay? So hit that subscribe button. Comment, let me know what you think. Let me know if this is something you like, if this is something that drives you insane. Thumbs up if you agree, I guess. Thumbs down if you don't. I mean, interaction's great. I don't want you to thumbs down my video, but if you don't like what I'm saying, then hey, that's what that button's there for, isn't it? Alright, hey, Wolvie, can you tell him bye? Tell him bye, Wolvie. Can you say bye? Bye.
If you're a break